Yeah, let's talk about this fast moving, not needing to code anymore, scary business. Because I think it is, I don't think anyone would argue that it's still an advantage to be literate in code, even just for keeping track of what your agents are doing. But it is, you know, as you said earlier in this episode, things have always been moving fast in this space. This is a really big change where now theoretically you don't need to be able to write code at all to be working in AI, to be training models, downloading open source model weights, fine tuning them to some specific task, labeling the data, getting that into production infrastructure, building the website that's running that AI application in the back end, theoretically now could be done all with natural language prompts. And that is a big change. And that's really just a couple months now.
It's a couple months.
You could do that.
And I do think, though, the more and more we're dealing with a lot of toy examples, as people move to production and scale, we're going to hit a lot more system thinking. And you know what stopped me in my tracks this week? Somebody who's not technical talking about memory. And I was thinking about that. A few years ago, who would be talking about memory? Like, it was always like an AI infra, you know, you don't see this part, it's invisible. Like, you know, I used to build like maps for elections, right? Nobody gave thanks to the DevOps engineers, okay? And I do think we're in this phase where AI infra is actually becoming the problem that many people are just wording differently, that they need to figure out. And maybe they don't need to know how like pre-filled decode disaggregation or like KV cache works or stuff like that. But they are saying the same thing in different ways, right? They are saying, oh, this context is not working for me. Why does it feel like it's, you know, it's lagging? Why, you know, it's things that even now that they're building and vibe coding, whether it be the founder, the AI engineer, or the AI infra engineer, you know, they're kind of all saying the same thing.
Yeah. So in 2016, when you were getting, well, actually, I don't know if was it 2016 that you got started in your tech career, or that's just content creation? When did you start?
Oh yeah, no. So it was 2015, 2016. Yeah.
2015.
I was teaching myself for a year, and 2015, 2016 is when I got my first like JavaScript. I was a JavaScript developer. That's my first role.
And you were in media still for a while before.
So the funny part, talk about transferable skills. I think people are all dealing with nonlinear career paths right now, right? That corporate ladder, it's not exactly, I don't know how it's going to play out for my kids. I don't know how it's going to play out. Right. But I can say that I've navigated nonlinear career paths, maybe not in the speed of now, but this is where I think transferable skills and people who have engineering background, it's really, really a leg up, and you have to like lean into it. And what I mean by that is when I was working in media, I was working first on the other end of media. And I was like, well, where would I have a leg up? If I go to a random tech company, I'm probably not yet, you know, I didn't have a traditional computer science background.
Right.
But I do understand the user of media because I come from media.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm building the CMS for the journalist writing the article, I understand what they need because I wrote the articles also on the other end.
Yes, the content management system for...
Right. Exactly. Sorry. It was like my life for a while. Oh. I'm speaking with my hands, and I always like hit it with my chin. You know, when I used to sing on stage, I used to always hit my teeth with the mic. Sorry, tangent. But
there may have been a sound in the audio only version just now, and that sound was Linda hitting her face on the microphone.
You know, this is why I'm chaotic. I shouldn't drink so much coffee. But in that part of transferable skills, like it is more about now you understand the user, you understand system thinking. System thinking, that is part of everything we're doing. If you're building like an agentic AI, you know, workflows, there's like a distributed systems layer here that you have to understand. And a person who is maybe the people that are non-technical might be coming also with a very good transferable skill, right? They're coming with understanding their niche. They're understanding real estate. They're understanding health. They're coming from their niche. And what I think engineers bring is they understand where things are failing. It's not completely like a mystery to them. Whether they come from software development, whether they come from the infra end, you know, even someone coming from DevOps, they might not be like an AI ML expert, but if you think about it, even the training of a model is an orchestration or distributed systems problem. Mm-hmm. Mixture of expert models and how they work. That's like, if you think about it, you know, the large language models and how they're trained, that's also, you know, in a way, a DevOps skill set. So I think a lot of it is getting abstracted, but what I think is bubbling up to the top is this AI infra challenges. And to bring it back to the transferable skills point, I think leaning into not feeling like just because, yes, people could vibe code, I think everyone brings strengths to the table. And just like the culture of open source, when we build together and we're able to actually bring our strengths together, we will all win that way, right?
For sure. So you're saying, your specific background, for example, in media, prior to becoming a software developer in media, that was helpful. And that's a useful tip for any of our listeners that are thinking, hey, I want to get into data science or AI or software development, where, just like you said, Linda, it might not make sense for you then to try to be applying for jobs at Meta as your first tech job.
First step.
Exactly. Right. But you could be thinking, okay, well, I actually have already been working in news media for several years. Maybe I can just stay at this company and start to have some of my time or all of my time be doing some kind of development work.
And I think people could bring their full self now to a lot of things because I think it actually matters. I think in the past, your career was always like, oh, here's my separation. As we look at also personal branding, as we look at how things are built that are going to be more intertwined with the human element, there is a part that I think we're also being empowered, even from why am I going to entrepreneurship? I think it's like, there's a lot that you could bring your full self today that you couldn't in the past, or creative things you could do that you weren't able to because you didn't have like the $50,000 studio and you didn't have, even in the music industry, right? You had to be with a label. Today it's very democratized, whether it be content, whether it be building something, you don't need to hire maybe as many people, but also the software developer could take what's in their mind, what they wanted to solve and do it for themselves. And the cost is lower in some respects, right?
Yep. In fact, it's almost just as in music. So in music and performance probably in general, it seems to me now like there's almost an expectation that somebody already has developed a social media following before they could get a record deal, right? And so that kind of reversed things. Whereas previously you'd get the record deal, you'd be on the radio, and then you have a following.
You were in the mercy of, same with news, right? I used to work in TV news, and one thing I realized was, I love media, but you know who the happiest people in my opinion were? The people who came as specialists, the lawyers, the doctors. Why? When they needed to not be on air that day because they weren't feeling well, they could not be on air. But when you live a news cycle, you don't have, there's no balance in many things, but I think in TV news, and it's the 1%. And in a way, you have so much of your own authority of what you want to talk about, what you don't want to talk about in your own media. Now, at the time, it wasn't as common, right, in 2016 to have your own media channels. But for me, I was like, I'd prefer to come in as an expert versus just, I think what journalists do are incredible. That wasn't my, I also realized what I enjoy versus not enjoy. And I think you have to ask yourself that because I think you could curate your life today. You could be the artist of your life and curate it based on the things you want because you have the power today to take it. And I think it's like everyone could build something, but what you build is really important. And going deep and figuring out where you bring that skill set, where you find joy, I think we're in that era. I think there'll be a creative renaissance in a way too. So live your wildest dreams.
Yeah. So all of these things that we were discussing earlier in the episode as being scary from one perspective, where as a software developer, as a data scientist, as an AI expert, we used to have this inbuilt moat that only, this small percentage of us in the population could write the Python code or whatever, the Rust code.
Or design. Like you could be an engineer, but I'm not good at designing. I'm not good at project management, but like AI helps me a lot.
Right. So yeah, so there's all of these different aspects where you still bringing your particular background, your particular expertise gives you probably more confidence to pursue any given direction. If you're thinking, I want to build a media business with no experience in media, you can go to Claude and have the conversation, but are you going to have the same level of confidence in these recommendations you're getting from the Claude chat than if you've lived that path in media, you've seen what works, you've seen what doesn't work, and you've developed connections in that space as well. So you can say, hey, so-and-so from media company X, I've built this web app that I think solves these problems that you have. Would you like to see it? Them already knowing you, they're much more likely to take the call to look at your app than if you send them a cold email.
Right. That's what it's like. I think for people, especially who are like many years in the industry and they're like toying with that, there is a strength to it. And I think, of course, obviously you have the more junior developers who are struggling right now coming out of college. I think it's harder to get junior jobs. So you're seeing them also going very entrepreneurial as well. There is a democratization. There is an abstraction layer. We've seen this happen though, in the age of boot camps. 2016 time. I think I went to a coding boot camp at the height of coding boot camps. I went to the Flatiron School.